welcome to the weekly current affairs class. Today we will be dealing with topics from society and security. The two topics that we will be dealing, one is with respect to the World Tribal Day and other is with respect to the withdrawal of personal data protection bill by the government. We will be dealing with the two issues in detail. So let's come to our first topic, that is the World Tribal Day. See, the government recently celebrated the World Tribal Day. It was basically conceptualized by UNDESA, that is the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. It is very much important for your prelims exams, as last 2-3 years we have witnessed that the UPSC has asked the questions with respect to particular days or also with respect to the particular themes regarding these days. So the theme was the role of indigenous women in the preservation and transmission of traditional knowledge. The day is August 9, conceptualized by UNDESA, that is called the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and the theme was role of indigenous women in the preservation and transmission of tribal knowledge. So as the day was celebrated world over, we need to discuss in detail the tribal status in India, the issues that are faced by them, the way forward, the measures that are adopted by the government, and as well as the government initiatives that are there. So coming first of all with respect to status, they constitute 8.6% of our Indian population. Like other vulnerable sections of society like scheduled castes are there, religious minorities are there, they are geographical concentrated in 15% of the country's areas. Largest or the highest numbers are found in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Odisha. These are the three states where the highest numbers are found. See, they are considered as a part of vulnerable section. They are also covered in your GS paper 1 with respect to society, and with respect to your GS paper 2 where the topic is vulnerable section of society and the welfare schemes introduced by the government. It can also be covered under that point. They are covered as a vulnerable section. Why so? Because of the poor social indicators with respect to the tribals. For instance, 50% of the tribals are considered as poor. The literacy rate for them is as low as 59%, and if we go for specifically the literacy rate of females, that is as low as the 40%. Because of these social indicators, or you can also include the other indicators like with respect to health are there. Okay, so due to these poor instances, these poor indicators, they are considered as the vulnerable section of society. Moving forward, see, it is because of their poor economic social status also, and to preserve the indigenous culture, we are all aware that the constitution has given them special protections with respect to reservation is there, with respect to preservation of their culture are there, or many other government schemes specifically to uplift their status. Why they are initiated, or why these provisions are instituted in the constitution itself? That is because of their poor socio-economic status and because of their indigenous culture, that it was thought of by the constitutional makers that special provisions should be constituted in the constitution. Like you have article 342 is there, 366 is there, article 338A is there, 5th schedule areas are there, then there are 6th scheduled areas. Okay, so coming now, that is with all that is there with respect to status of the tribals in India. This can be used by you in the introduction of your answers while starting the questions like what is there, they constitute 8% of our populations. If the issues are asked, you can start with the social indicators, poor health status is there, literacy rate is there, or poverty rates are there. Okay, so now coming forward to what are the issues that are associated with the tribals in the Indian society. We have also in our one of our previous classes discussed that if any question comes with respect to tribals, or particularly with respect to the vulnerable section of society, how you have to address that issues. You have to particularly go for the subheadings. Just think of your papers. For example, paper 1 covers with your social aspect, then paper 2 is political aspect, paper 3 is the your economic aspects. Under those headings you will be providing the all the issues. You will not be haphazardly writing the issues in like in 1.234, that first is economic, second is political, third one is again economic. So going by that classification, first of all we are dealing with the social issues that are faced by them. See, the major issue that is faced by them is a stereotyping due to their looks, and because of that they are wrongly presented in public. We all know that basically because of their looks, because they are residing in the forest areas, particularly the media or the TVs or the shows or the web series or their films are there, they wrongly portray them as some colorful individuals. That is a wrong presentation, due to which stereotypes are being promoted against the tribals in the society and they are misjudged. That is our first issue. Second thing is the faith in the supernatural powers and superstitions. Because they come from the marginalized section of society, they have their own indigenous cultures, and because of cultural backwardness they have not been mainstreamed in the societies. They still believe in the superstitions that are prevalent there, or the supernatural powers with respect to the natural forces are there, the phenomena they are not able to explain. That is the another issue, social issue. Third social issue is the with the rising vulnerability of the tribal culture and languages. See, it is a very big concern with respect to the tribal areas or the tribals, that the tribal culture is going for abandonment, because also because of the mainstreaming with respect to the mainstream religions are there. Many tribals are becoming under the fold of mainstream religions, they are abandoning their own culture. Secondly, with respect to language, proper preservation of language is not there. This is an also issue with respect to the tribal cultures. Specifically, government policies are not penetrating into the tribal areas to preserve those languages, those traditional knowledge that is there. That is the issue with respect to the rising vulnerability of tribal culture as well as the languages. Next issue is with respect to high number of child marriages. Many surveys or reports over the period of time have highlighted the issue with respect to the high number of child marriages in the tribal areas, which basically hinders the lack of educational opportunities. And if education will not be there, further what will happen is that the economic opportunities will not also come around. The major issues, again I am repeating here, the 4 issues that we are dealing with is: one is the stereotyping because of their looks, because of their residence in the forest areas. Second one is the belief in the supernatural or superstitious powers that hinders the process of rationalism basically. Third one is with respect to the vulnerability of tribal culture and the tribal languages. Okay, the tribal languages are not being preserved, cultural backwardness or the mainstreaming under the influence of major religion is leading to the abandonment of the tribal cultures. And last one is with respect to the child marriages that is there, that because of that especially the girl child, they are not able to avail the educational opportunities and further not avail the economic opportunities as well. Moving forward, next are the issues. What are the issues that are faced by them? Next is the economic issue classification. See, first issue is lack of skill development leading to higher unemployment rates. In the status of the tribals in India, we have already seen the poor literacy rates that are prevalent among the tribals. So this is the first issue that is leading to the low lack of skill development. Further, the education that is penetrating in these tribal areas is through the government institutions only, government public schools. We all know the status of government public schools, that is there is an issue with respect to the learning quality outcomes. Okay, the quality of education that is provided there, the quality of these primary schools, the teacher absenteeism, teacher vacancies that are there. Due to that, basically two issues. First one, poor literacy rates and the poor condition of the government public schools. What is happening is there is lack of skill development, and which leads to the higher unemployment rates, because today market is very dynamic. People are required with specific skill set to get employed. So when the skill will not be there, obviously it is difficult to get a job. You can also link here with the government skill development schemes are there, like Skill India is there, or Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Yojana is there, that why their penetration is not reaching these tribal areas, or how the tribals can be initiated into the basic skill learning level so that they are able to get a basic or the jobs that fulfill their basic necessities. That is our first issue. Next one is lack of infrastructure in remote areas leading to lack of opportunities. We are already dealing with the issues of the rural and the urban development is there, rural development is there. Further, the specifically issues with respect to the tribals, they are living in the hinterland remote areas. The infrastructure capacities are not there, rural routes are not there, electricity is not there, drinking problems are there, sanitation problems are there, they are not linked with the market. Industrial penetration, if is there, most of the tribals are employed in the manual work in the informal sector. So this lack of infrastructure, what is it resulting? It is resulting in the lack of opportunities for the tribal areas to empower themselves. That is the another issue that we are facing. Third one is the integration of modern education with the tribal culture, basically that has not happened. Okay, why so modern education has not been able to sync with the tribal culture? First, it is not in the native language. Many tribal areas are there, basically they do not understand, or it is difficult to process the concepts through the English language. That is the issue. First, what we are teaching through the modern education, it is not related to their tribal culture. Okay, so they are not able to develop an link or an understanding basically what is taught to them. This is issue basically which is resulting their economic hindrance, occurring as a hindrance in the economic opportunities. Next one is the social stigma prevents the children from learning. So we have already seen that basically poor, or first of all poor government conditions of the government schools is there. So whatever tribals are going to school, they are basically stigmatized because of their tribal identity. We have seen in the social issues how social issues, our first point that was there, that how tribals are stigmatized or stereotyped for their looks, for living in the remote areas, how they are wrongly presented in the TV series or the films that are there. Because of that stereotyping, sometimes peer pressure, it results in prejudice, it results in discrimination against the tribal children, which prevents the children from learning, and it results in the increased what we say dropout rates among the tribals. So that is another issue. So what are the economic issues that we are facing? Because of the poor literacy levels, because of the poor condition of the government schools, and because of the poor penetration of the skill development programs, what is happening is high unemployment rates are being witnessed among tribals. Secondly, because infrastructure, rural connectivity, roads, electricity, drainage systems, clean water, sanitation, these are not available. So these areas are not getting developed, which is further leading to the lack of opportunities, economic opportunities for the tribals to empower themselves. Next is the integration of the modern education with the tribal culture. Okay, the language basically used is not native, that is creating issues with regarding to the understanding of the things. And another issue is also with respect to the what we are teaching to them. Okay, they are not able to connect it with, because of the it is not in sync with their tribal culture. And whatever students are going to school, they are stigmatized because of their looks, because of their tribal identity, which is increasing the dropout rates of the children from the schools. Moving forward to next issues, you can also classify according to the health issues that they are facing. First issue is our this is IMR is infant mortality rate, then MMR is maternal mortality rate, TFR is total fertility rates. Okay, these rates are very high because try to link it with the lack of infrastructure here, because infrastructure is not available in this remote, in this hinterland areas. Obviously then what will happen is hospitals are not there, okay, doctors are not there, nurses are not there, which leads to the basic what we say unaccessibility of the health facilities, which what will results in high mortality rate, maternal mortality rates. Okay, this is the first issue. Second is a high consumption of tobacco and alcohol. Many reports and surveys over the period of time has highlighted this concern regarding the ill dosage of the tobacco and the alcohol problems within the tribal areas, that is basically deteriorating their health. If health will deteriorate, obviously it will reduce the capacity of the tribals to participate in the economic activities. This is another issue. Then is a poor penetration of health infrastructure like doctors, hospital beds, vaccines, etc. I have already tried to link it with our first point, that is high infant mortality, maternal mortality rate. What health problems basically are occurring, or basically the issues that are faced in the health sector, most of them are due to the poor penetration of the health infrastructure. Doctors are not willing to work there, hospitals condition is very poor, specialty hospitals are not there. With respect to many problems like TB is there, or polio is there, or any another problems that are there, penetration of vaccines has not happened basically in these areas. This is another issue. Next one is a lack of health workers in the tribal areas. Obviously there is a lack of bridge that can connect the health professionals with the tribal areas. It would be much more efficient if the health workers would be from tribal areas. That will cover the what we say language barrier, and that will also encourage the tribals to avail the health facilities by dispensing their what we say superstitions or any concerns they have regarding to the vaccinations are there, or the modern medicine system is there. So they can work as a bridge, but there is also a lack of those health workers, those who are able to work in these areas. So whatever our health issues, first one you can obviously start with the health infrastructure. Health infrastructure is leading to the problems of higher MIR, MMR rates. Then there is a high consumption of tobacco and alcohol, and obviously this can also be linked with the lack of health workers in the tribal areas that can come from the tribal areas itself, those who can act as a what we say bridge with the health professionals to ensure the penetration of the health services. Moving forward, you can also go for one more classification, that is the governance classification. Okay, what is the governance classification? You can link it with the development of the tribal area. So what is happening here is there is a lack of tribal centric governance. What does it mean? It means that there is a top down approach to the governance. We are not going for the what we say tribal led approach. The government policies that are being framed at the central level are not taking the ground reality into the concerns. What is the ground reality, what is the feedback mechanism, what is the need and aspirations of the tribal areas or the tribal people, that is not there, which means lack of tribal centric governance, mostly focusing upon the top down approach. Top down approach, I have already stated that policies formulated at the central level, and it is made without any concern with respect to the ground level reality. Next issue is forced displacement and rehabilitation issues. We have seen over the period of time that tribals basically they are residing in the forest areas, and majority of India's natural resources are in those areas. So we see the development of high dams or the what we say establishment of the industries in these areas, which results in the displacement of the tribals. Okay, many of them are not willing to, if they are displaced, they are not properly rehabilitated in the particular areas or in the surroundings that like those that they have been living in. The compensation mechanism is very poor. Most of them, because of the poor rehabilitation, they lost their contact with the relatives or with their groups. This is a major another issue. And last one is the poor implementation of the welfare schemes, like it may be with respect to TriFed is there, tribal sub plan is there, tribal health mission is there, TriFed is there, okay, or the skill development like we saw in the economic issues that were seen. So what are the governance issues? Basically there is a lack of tribal centric governance. Why? Because of the top down approach. There are issues with respect to displacement and rehabilitation, and then there is a issue with respect to implementation of the welfare schemes. So according to this classification, there are economic issues, there are health issues, there are social issues, and there are governance issues. Okay, so moving forward, after covering the issues, we will move forward to the basically what should be the way forward. How can we address these issues? What can be the mechanism to deal with these issues? See, first of all is we have seen that is a decentralized policy making. We should always take into concern the ground reality, the feedback mechanism, the need and aspiration of the tribal areas. Further, we need to devolve the powers at the local level to ensure the effective policy making and well as the implementation of those schemes. So that is called as the decentralized policy making. Next thing is the basic infrastructure development, like connecting with them real by areas, roads are there, basic provision of electricity is there, government schools should be there, basic health facilities should be covered there. That is called as the basic infrastructure development. Then promotion of traditional knowledge, which can lead to the basically what we say preservation of tribal languages, tribal culture, okay, that should be done. Then inclusive policy making with focus on health, nutrition and education. All these three things are interconnected. If education is there, obviously individual is more aware, he will take care of his or her health, and which will further improve the nutrition levels. Similarly, if your health is right, you will be able to attend the schools and will not be able to drop out, okay. Further, if you are attending the schools, we have a provision of like midday meal schemes are there in the schools, which can provide the nutrition, required nutrition to the tribal children. That's so what is the need is the inclusive policy making with the understanding the interlinkages of the these areas, health, nutrition and education. And next one, last one is a tribal led rather than a top down approach. We should always ask for the responsiveness, the needs and aspirations of the tribal area, what is required development, what is their perspective of development. We should need to take that things into our account. So this is the way forward, again repeating it: decentralized policy making, basic infrastructure development, promotion of tribal knowledge, then there is inclusive policy making, and then last one is a tribal led rather than a top down approach. Moving forward, what should be the government initiatives regarding has been regarding these things. Okay, you should know in detail the Forest Right Act. It is, we have already discussed in our one of our last classes. It is a basically hallmark in the empowerment of tribals. You should be knowing that. Then there is tribal sub plan is there. Government then went for Eklavya schools, and then it also went for Pradhan Mantri Vandan Yojana is there. Tri-Fed is there, PACE Act is there, basically extension of Panchayat to the Scheduled Areas Act, and last one is the Tribal Panchsheel, which was basically formulated by our first Prime Minister, that is Jawaharlal Nehru. Basically it focused upon the tribal led approach rather than the top down approach. So these are the government initiatives, major government initiatives that have been taken in the empowerment of the tribal. So this is our first topic that was there. Okay, what we have understood with respect to your when tribal day is celebrated, what is the theme, and with respect to your mains answer, we have seen the status that can be included in your introductions. Then what are the issues that are faced by them, what are the measures or what is the way forward that is needed, and at the last basically what are the government initiatives that have been in place. So this is our all that was there with respect to the tribal issues. See, next issue is with respect to the withdrawal. This is deals with your security. Withdrawal of personal data protection bill. Government has recently, you must be aware, would have seen in the newspapers that government has basically withdrawn this bill, personal data protection bill. We will understand first the historical background regarding the formulation of this bill. So what is the historical background? Why this bill came to be formulated in the first place? See, it originated in the context of everybody knows about K.S. Puttaswamy judgment that is there, which stated that right to privacy is an intrinsic part of right to life, that is an Article 21. Question in this regard has also been asked in okay, and personal freedom. This was what was advocated by the K.S. Puttaswamy judgment. So in this regard, when the court stated that right to privacy is a part of your Article 21, government set up a Justice B.N. Sri Krishna committee to formulate a regulatory mechanism for data protection. The committee was set up to formulate the contours of the data law basically. So however, what transpired was that the bill was criticized by opposition. For this, when the bill was introduced, a joint parliamentary committee was established to review the bill, which criticized the government over the increased control of central government over the data, and there were some other also controversial issues that were objected to by the what we say Joint Parliamentary Committee, and the bill was itself criticized by Justice B.N. Sri Krishna over the increased control of central government over the data. So in this regard, in the light of criticism from the Justice B.N. Sri Krishna also, itself, and the criticism of Joint Parliamentary Committee JPC that was formed, government has decided to withdraw the bill. So what are the reasons for the withdrawal of the bill? You can be asked the question in this regard, that why there is a delay with respect to data bill, or what were the reasons that lead to the withdrawal of this particular bill, when it is so much important, when we consider that data is the new oil. Okay. So we will be discussing that what were the basic reasons. See, first reason is with respect to the data localization that is there. What happened in the bill was that the government or the bill classified the personal data into subcategories. Like there was a category of sensitive personal data, then there was a category of critical personal data. Okay, and the bill stated that the sensitive personal data, it can be transferred abroad for processing. Like if you are having a client with respect to in US that deals with your marketing, or that deals with your client, the data can be sent to him or for processing, or that particular company, but a copy of it must be kept in India. Okay. Similarly, with respect to the critical personal data bill, that is very crucial with respect to the individual freedom. Okay, it should be stored and processed only in India. It cannot be allowed to go abroad for processing, like we have seen in the sensitive personal data. Critical data cannot be allowed to move outside the India. It also stipulated the conditions, okay, with respect to when sensitive data can be sent abroad, such as government authorized contracts are there. There are conditions that whether the data can be sent in this regard to the outside company for processing or not. So this, what happened here was that although many countries have localization provisions with respect to the storage or the preserving of data, but many businesses, both big and small, basically they objected to the issues with respect to the localization. They stated that it is not possible. It is a globalized world, which is, we have an interconnected economy. It is not entirely possible basically to only keep and process the data in India. We have interconnections. Somebody is handling the market from the US market, somebody is going for the promotions in the another markets. So it is not entirely possible to go for data localization, and the conditions which the government has created to process the data abroad, basically they are also very tough and they cannot be fully complied to. This was the objection of the companies, both big and small, as well as the international companies and the domestic companies. So government had to keep the listen the concerns with respect to FDI from the international companies, and with respect to the promotion of the entrepreneurial story of the Indian, what we say, businesses or the startups as well, that are dealing more over or less with the data. Second issue was with respect to the social media. That was considered that it is more of a prohibiting measure. Okay, that what it stated, that let's first discuss it. The bill sought to move social media companies from the category of online intermediaries to the content publishers. So it was stated by the bill that the social media companies, from where your tweets or your FB posts are there or your Instagram posts are there, they will not be seen as the intermediaries which are providing the platform, okay, to publish your stories or to publish your tweets or to publish your opinions. Rather, they will be seen as the content publishers. So if anything goes wrong, if hate speech is there or some incitement to hate is there, they will be considered as responsible for the posts that are happening upon their platforms. So it was the another provision that was considered as a very prohibiting or tough provision. And most of our social media companies, they are the foreign international companies, whether it is Facebook is there, whether WhatsApp is there, whether Instagram is there, or whether Twitter is there. So concern was highlighted in this regard that it would be very tough for social media companies to compile with this provision, as they do not have any jurisdiction or they do not have any authority over how to control basically individuals, what they are posting or how they are posting. Okay, so it was also highlighted by the social media companies. That was the issue. Next issue is with respect to tech industry. So what tech industry stated that it raised the issue that infrastructure basically that would be required for a company with the localization. For example, we have seen in our first point only that data localization was made mandatory by the government in India. So the companies raised the concern with government that for data localization they need to establish the infrastructure. And as you know that most of the companies dealing with the data are the new startups, okay, the new companies that have been formulated. It would be very difficult to move or to basically establish such an infrastructure that can compile with the localization stipulations. So it will be a huge drain on their sources. When they can go for expansion and revenue growth, they will have to divert their sources for the infrastructure development with respect to localization. Okay, so it will increase the burden of compliance process. Also international as well as local companies, that is why they were lobbying with the government against this bill, because it was actually requiring a lot of money on the part of especially small companies to build such an infrastructure that can compile with the data localization provisions of the bill. So it was a concern. And your last one is with respect to the changes that were advocated by the Joint Parliamentary Committee. See, the committee suggested that 97 corrections should be made in the bill, okay, and other key recommendation was that you should widen the ambits of the bill to cover all the data instead just of the personal data. So the name of the bill itself was the Personal Data Protection Bill. JPC recommended that you should not only go for the protection of particular personal data, but rather all the data that is there in the economy or in the market. And it also suggested that 97 corrections are there that need to be made in the bill. So in light of this criticism, government thought it was better to bring a new bill rather than going for a overhaul or the modifications in the bill. The new bill will be more specific to the needs and the demands of the market, to the demands of the citizens, to the demands of the business enterprises, whether they are startups, whether they are for the foreign companies. And with respect to the parliamentary JPC committee also, the criticism that it has highlighted. So these were the reasons that provoked the government to withdraw the Personal Data Protection Bill. What were the reasons? I will again repeat it. First one is with respect to data localization measures were very tough, and the second thing is it was the companies required infrastructure creation, which was a huge drain on the resources of the company. Okay, so that was also highlighted by the tech industry. Next one was with respect to the social media companies being considered as the content publishers and responsible for the hate speech or the incitement to hate whatever the citizens post on their platform. So that was a concern that was highlighted by social media companies, that it would be very wrong to make them liable for if any another individual is posting something on their platform. And the overhaul of the bill basically, which was recommended by the JPC. So in light of these reasons, the government basically withdrew the Personal Data Protection Bill. So these were the two issues that were there basically in the last week. One was with respect to our security and other was with respect to society. So moving forward to the seize the mains question. The question that you will be writing is personal privacy becomes frivolous if it compromises with the national security. Hence, personal privacy at times must be relegated to the state security. Do you agree? Justify. You have to write in 150 words. You have to submit your answer at rajiasacademy.com. The link to the website will be provided in the description below, and you all know the uploading of the video. See if the mains answer is that is there. It is uploaded at 9. So right answer, submit it. Thank you. That will be all from my side. All the best for your future endeavors.